This was the weirdest week the Big 12 saw in all of 2025. Here's a special edition Locked On Big 12 to recap all of it. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday night, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, America's #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for making this show your first listen every single day. Today, I joined ESPN Central Texas, Ward White's on the radio to talk all about the Big 12. Decided that I would record it, film it, and give it to you here for a little extra content, a free bonus show, if you will. Let's talk about BYU to Texas Tech to Cincinnati and, heck, where we sit in the college football playoff standings. This and more right now.
Welcome back to the Press Box here on ESPN Central Texas on this Manic Monday. Joining us now, as promised, from Locked On Big 12, the one and only Drake Toll. Good morning, Drake.
Good morning, Ward. I would say good morning, but it is just a morning. 50th anniversary of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald today. Every good man knows. Important day in American history today, Ward.
Yes, sir.
Great song, too.
Oh.
Great song.
All right. I guess let's start with the biggest game on the schedule, and it didn't turn out to be that exciting in Lubbock as Texas Tech downs BYU 29-7. Did Drake Toll have that on his bingo card?
I didn't have a blowout like this on my bingo card at all, Ward, and this just goes to show how much better Texas Tech is really than anybody else in the Big 12, and the anomaly that the loss to Arizona State is and continues to be. I don't understand how Arizona State can lose to Mississippi State and somehow beat Texas Tech, who is the strongest team in this conference, who is, in my opinion, a lock for Arlington. And more than that, the team that should win multiple games in the college football playoff and be the Big 12's best chance at a national championship. And I don't say that in a way that is hyperbolic. I mean it. The defensive line, the offensive line, the linebacking core, the secondary, everything the way they play together, namely on the defensive side of the ball, Texas Tech is one of the best squads in the country. Now, I think BYU is still good. We should not dilute what Tech just did. They took a top 10 team to the woodshed. They did it at home, no doubt, but this wasn't a night game, raucous environment, get your fan base ready. This was the morning time, put your dukes up, and if your defense isn't good, then you're going to fall apart. And look, I think you saw glimpses of how good BYU can be defensively, holding Tech to 5 field goals, but in the end, this was an absolute slaughter. Texas Tech over BYU. It does not dilute how good BYU is. It just showcases that Texas Tech is elite. I think both of these teams could still very well be in the college football playoff, both of them be in Arlington. And we saw the committee last week really value the Big 12 Conference, putting 3 teams in the top 13. That shouldn't go away, but what should be very clear after a 29-7 final in Lubbock is that Texas Tech is just that much better than everybody else in this league.
Yeah, and we really got to see their defense showcased. And, we've been hearing some talk about Jacob Rodriguez saying that he should be a candidate for the Heisman. In your mind, is that crazy or is that something that could actually happen?
His numbers are better than Manti Te'o's, and Manti Te'o finished second for the Heisman in his campaign. And Jacob Rodriguez has a very real girlfriend, actually wife now. So credit to him for he's 2 for 2 on both the stats and the loves of his life being real. And I'm firmly in that boat. I've said it, now the last 10 days or so ad nauseum. Jacob Rodriguez has forced 7 fumbles himself. His right and left arm have combined to force 7. There are teams in this country that want to force 7 fumbles. He's done it alone. And the way he's able to, he just has a nose for the football, whether it's fumble recoveries, interceptions, forced fumbles. He's a turnover machine. He has led to points for Texas Tech nonstop this season and been a stalwart on defense. He's the most impactful defensive player in the country. And past that, I think we typically give the Heisman to a player with a good story. You don't have to be the best player on the best team. In fact, you shouldn't be the best player on the best team. You should be the most effective player in all of college football. And Rodriguez was a quarterback at Virginia. He walked on at Texas Tech, slept on the floor for a semester, tried to make ends meet, and now he's the best defensive player in college football, a first-round draft pick, a guy that Tech took a chance on. He took a chance on Tech. And I believe he should not just be in the Heisman race, but possibly leading it in a year where the names at the top of the Heisman board right now, from Julian Sayin on, just aren't that sexy. I don't get a lot of appeal, even statistically, from the guys that are being considered for the trophy right now. Fernando Mendoza, certainly good at Indiana, but we see lapses from these guys every other week, and we don't know if they're truly the dog that deserves the Heisman. Jacob Rodriguez has not played a bad game yet this season. He is a team wrecker. He is going to destroy your offense. He's going to give Tech a chance in the college football playoff to win multiple games. He is, in my opinion, very clearly a Heisman contender and very clearly someone who deserves a Heisman invite to New York. They did. They're no longer in the contender pool. They went from staring down the barrel of 7-2 being their record, a 4-2 record in conference play, still tied with the likes of Utah and Arizona State and Cincinnati for an opportunity later on to play in a Big 12 championship. And now I think for the Frogs, you're looking around saying, okay, what's the best we can do this year? Is it an Alamo Bowl appearance? I don't think they want that coming off of a national championship game a couple of years ago. Josh Hoover at quarterback, the amount of weapons that he has, the defense that was supposed to be improved, and in the end, on the weeks where the defense plays really well, the offense can't seem to get it done. Like this week, 20-17. You only allowed 20 points. Iowa State ended the fourth quarter with just 6 points. They were able to rally and get the win. TCU offensively just could not produce in this contest. And what's confusing to me is the weeks where the offense works and the defense doesn't. The week the defense, when they work, the offense doesn't. They cannot put it together. There's no cohesion with TCU in 2025. And I would not be surprised if Kendall Briles is not the offensive coordinator come next year, given the fact that they have squandered one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12, a guy preseason that many folks thought would be the best quarterback in this conference. He's not looked great down the stretch. I think ultimately there will be some changes in Fort Worth, despite the fact they're still 6-3. And I think there are schools in the Big 12 that would kill to have that record right now. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is exactly where I go this time of year, where college football heats up the most. And I want to go to college football games. I cannot be more excited with how the Big 12 is shaking out down the stretch. And with Game Time, it's an app that gives me the advantage. And it gives the advantage back to you. We're the fans. Pull up Game Time, couple tabs, see amazing deals. Talking your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app makes it super simple. Could even see the exact view from my seat before I buy it. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off at Game Time. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time and do it today.
Well, after taking a pretty devastating loss against West Virginia, Houston gets the win against UCF. They got TCU and then Baylor next. What's the chances that Houston stays contending for the Big 12?
Yeah, sitting at 5-2 right now, I think Houston has a very good shot to make the Big 12 championship game. That's weird to say, but it's because if you mix together 3 or 4 teams that all have 2 losses in Big 12 play, it's impossible to go head to head and say, okay, yeah, well, Houston will say beat Arizona State head to head. Yeah, well, but Arizona State beat Texas Tech head to head. And it all gets in this big conglomerate where we have to go down the tiebreaker list and decide who is going to make the Big 12 championship game based on those tiebreakers. Consider this: TCU and Baylor coming up for Houston. They'll likely be favored in both of those games. They get a bye week before those 2 games as well to get healthy and be ready. And to that, it shows me this is a very likely 10-2 Houston Cougars team, maybe 9-3, but they've still got a very strong defense. The schedule is favorable these next couple. I think Houston should be not just in the conversation for a Big 12 championship, but should be a scary team for folks who don't want to see a very good defense in Willie Fritz. Now, let's put it into this perspective. Last season, Notre Dame played for the national championship. They also lost to Northern Illinois in the regular season. We've got to reform our brains a little bit. College football teams can still be very good and lose to teams that are hot at the right time. West Virginia started a 5th-string quarterback in Scotty Fox Jr. None of us knew that he was going to be the answer for West Virginia. Certainly Houston didn't know that. And when they faced a guy who didn't have a lot of film out there on him, They crumbled. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't put it together. So I don't want to say that Houston's loss to West Virginia completely kills their college football season. I don't think it does. I think their coaching staff is still one of the best in the country. Mind you, they also lost their strength and conditioning coach was diagnosed with cancer in April. He passed 2 weeks ago. This is a program dealing with a lot of stuff. The bye week could not come at a better time. They went on the road. They won a gritty game where they turned the ball over 4 times. I think they still have life. Give me Houston as a team that I'm still buying because I like Willie Fritz as the old ball coach so much.
Dre, do you think that because of what we're seeing with everything getting kind of a little bit cloudy toward the end of the season, tiebreakers and everything else, that the Big 12 will ever go to an East-West division, North-South division, however they want to divide it up? Is that in the future for the Big 12, you think?
You know, I've lobbied for that. I wanted it to be. It makes things a little smoother, a little easier. But then the pushback came from the fact that the ACC had that format for so long. And what happened with them is Clemson would win one side of the division every year. And the other division, it was 7 different teams in 7 consecutive years. They could never really build consistency. And ultimately, it hurt the ACC. I think the Big 12 saw that and said, okay, the proof of concept isn't there for us. And maybe more than that, what I'm looking at for the Big 12 Conference is let's build out 4 individual pods, in essence. I want to see Baylor and Texas Tech play every year. I think that they should. I want to see Baylor and Houston play every year. I want to see BYU play the West schools like Arizona or Colorado every single year because it makes more sense regionally. Build those rivals out. And past that, the big thing that I'm pointing to, I don't know why we have a conference championship game in an era where it's just not worth it to add an extra loss for a team. I love the conference title. I think it's very fun. But in this format of the college football playoff, we could have 11-1 BYU, 11-1 Texas Tech playing in the Big 12 title game. And if BYU wins that game, Texas Tech just added another loss. You know, I can't promise the committee is going to leave Tech. They should. They certainly should. But the Big 12 doesn't get that kind of respect. We need to rework or revisit how the conference title game benefits the Big 12 when it comes to the college football playoff. Because right now, it's just giving you one more tick in the bad category for one of these teams. And I don't think long-term that is good. I love the game. I think we need the game from a fan standpoint. But until the committee proves, hey, you can lose that game and not be penalized, I'd rather sit at home and be 11-1 than have to go force myself into an extra loss. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go during the college basketball season and the NBA. You know what? The NBA is not my favorite thing to watch, transparently. But the reason that it's way better this year, number one, my San Antonio Spurs are good again. And number two, is with the NBA being back and FanDuel being partnered right there with it, there's no better place to get in on the action and make it even more fun. The official sports betting partner of the NBA is FanDuel. Even if you miss the start of the game, want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to those fourth quarter comebacks. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All of that and more with FanDuel.
Baylor has a really tough matchup coming up against number 13 Utah. How tough is it going to be for the Bears at home to try and take down this Utes team?
Well, I would have said these are two teams going in completely different directions, but that's changed a little bit with what we saw out of Baylor their last time out. The Bears still have life. This reminds me of, if I may, I come from the backwoods of Arkansas, but the folks in Robinson will understand this. You'll go frogging, and when you go frog digging, you'll catch the frogs, kill the frogs, and when you go to put them in the oil to fry up these frog legs, they twitch. That's the Baylor Bears. They've still got that twitch, and that 30-3 win over UCF proved that. Now, make no mistake, Utah's coming off a 45-14 win against Cincinnati, 53-7 win against Colorado. They're the better football team. But as long as the Bears have that twitch, they've got an opportunity, a night game against a top 15 opponent with Sawyer Robertson at quarterback to win at home. I don't have a ton of confidence still in Dave Aranda. I don't have a ton of confidence in the coaching staff. And man, after the news this week about Mac Rhodes putting his hand on a player, putting his hand around the neck of an assistant coach, all of that was reported by multiple national outlets. I think there's still the investigation going on there, so I don't have more information. But I know that it seems outside looking in like there are some dumpster fires to put out from the top. At the same time, if the players buy in, if the players want to win, if the players want to finish 8-4 this season, I think they have the talent to do it. This game could be much more interesting than people expect come Utah and Baylor at a 7.5-point spread when we kick off on Saturday and wake up.
Drake, what's the other game to keep an eye on in the Big 12 coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I think there are a couple this week that I'm really tapped into when it comes to the Big 12 championship race. Arizona's playing better. If they upset Cincinnati, that's a really tough look for the Bearcats as they try to get to Arlington and mathematically still could get to Arlington. I believe with West Virginia's trajectory, they could give Arizona State some fits and play spoiler in a game like that. But ultimately, Utah and Baylor is way up there. And then TCU and BYU is going to tell us a lot about where the Cougars still stand. If they lose this game, the way that last season they lost to Kansas and Arizona State back-to-back after starting 8-0, if they lose this game, I don't think that we can consider BYU as a team the Big 12 can count on to be in the college football playoff unless some extreme things fall their way. So if you're the conference, if you're the Big 12, you're kind of rooting for Cincinnati, BYU, and Texas Tech all to continue winning as these one-loss Big 12 teams, one loss in conference play, and bolster their resumes as much as possible going toward the end of the year. And so I'm going to have my eyes closely on Utah and Baylor, very closely on TCU and BYU. I think those are the most significant as far as teams in the Big 12 moving up in college football playoff contention and moving up these Big 12 standings. I do think ultimately Utah will get the win. BYU will get the win. Texas Tech will get a win this week. Cincinnati will win this week. And we'll start to see, okay, those are our four major contenders for the conference title game going down the stretch.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 with us in the press box. Drake, tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, at Locked On Big 12, at LO Big 12 if you like good tweets, and at Drake C. Toll if you like bad tweets. That's exactly where you can go.
Drake, always appreciate the time. Enjoy the week, and we'll catch up next Monday.
Ward, we will see you next Monday. Hopefully it's after a big Big 12 weekend. Thanks as always.
There he goes, Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 with us in the press box. Stay right there. More to come.